Action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for any outcome, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trust in your education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. So I apologize for my delay, some technical difficulties this morning, but we are on the move. All right. So if everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat and we will get things underway. Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. So we'll dive into the fundamentals. There's never a dull moment. There's never a dull moment with the uh, current president. We got more tariffs to talk about. Talk about some things out of the UK, and then we'll start the day off. If you guys have any charts you want to take a look at, drop those into the chat for me. We'll start looking at those first, and then we'll dive into some that that I have. So first up, UK inflation rate slows more than expected. The annual inflation rate in the UK fell to 2.8% in February from 3% in January, below the market expectation of 2.9, but it was in line with the Bank of England's forecast. All right, so below the market's forecast, but in line with the Bank of England's forecast. It's the lowest downward contribution. The lowest downward contribution came from clothing, which declined for the first time since October 2021. Inflation also eased in recreation and culture, particularly in live music, admissions, and recording media, as well as housing and utilities. Um, mm, mm, mm. Food inflation was unchanged. Prices rose faster for transportation in restaurants and hotels. Meanwhile, services inflation held steady at 5%. The annual core inflation rate declined to 3.5% from 3.7 compared to the previous month. All right. So you had inflation rise faster. I'm sorry, inflation fall faster than the market expected. So in some of your pound pairs, you saw some easing take place. Okay. Um, so something to note there. Japan, right? Japan's 10-year government bond yield surged to around 1.59 on Wednesday, reaching its highest level in 16 and a half years after Bank of Japan Governor Ueda told the parliament that they would continue to raise interest rates if economic projections were realized. Ueda highlighted that economic growth had outpaced the forecast, with a positive cycle of rising income driving increases in consumer spending. Additionally, the BOJ chief revealed early this week that the central bank had been gradually tapering its long-term Japanese government bond holdings, though he emphasized that an immediate sale was not feasible. All right, so they're not in the space where they can do that yet. So things haven't been realized, but the conversation, how the market moves. So the conversation got people excited. Um, Last week, the BOJ kept the rate the same, with the officials maintaining a cautious stance while assessing global economic risks, particularly the potential fallout from the higher U.S. tariffs. So that's still part of the conversation, still in the back of the mind of the BOJ, and they're remaining cautious because of it. All right. So that's the Japan Brent crude. Oil futures rose above $73 a barrel on Wednesday, fueled by supply concerns and sharper than expected drop in the U.S. crude inventories. Right on Monday, Trump signed an order allowing the 25% tariff on imports from Venezuela, potentially disrupting key flows to key refineries, China, India, and Spain. All right, the Trump administration extended Chevron to May 27. Um, with that exit for Chevron is estimated to withdraw cut production by 200,000 barrels per day. All right. Um, the API data showed the U.S. crude inventories fell by 4.6 million barrels last week, surpassing the expectation of 2.5. Okay. So almost double there. Oil gains were limited as the U.S. brokered deals with with Ukraine and Russia. Um, they agreed to push some of the sanctions from Moscow back or give some relief there. So they're anticipating Russian oil uh, re-entering the market. Now I have my personal thoughts about this because um, technically the oil never left the market. The oil was just rerouted. So I'm interested to see once this occurs if this actually has an impact on oil and keeping prices tapered because the oil has been in the market. It was just rerouted through different countries so that it didn't officially come from Russia. So I'll continue to watch this to uh, see how this actually impacts the market, and if it has the impact that's anticipated. So those are my thoughts there on Brent crude. Um, the thing today is uh, copper, copper tariffs is the conversation, right? Tariffs on copper could be implemented sooner than originally stated. Um, it could be implemented sooner than the 270-day deadline um, that was previously implemented. One second, everybody. Um, what happened when these tariffs were announced? You had companies go on a surge buying. I'll drop this into the chat. Buying copper. It was something like 200,000 tons of copper uh, in a week's time when the average copper purchases and imports was around 70,000 tons. So, um, there was a massive spike because companies are trying to prepare for when these actually get implemented, and the quickening of the pace of the implementation definitely see a spike in copper as companies continue to buy lots of it in that preparation. So that's an article to check out and read. Um, and if you're a copper trader, right, take a look at those charts and see where things are. Okay. So that's it from a fundamental I'm sorry, calendar. Um, Today we have, well, early this morning, right? CPI data 3 a.m. We talked about that. There are the numbers there, right? Came in below expectation across the board. Um, and so you saw some changes in the pound. Last night, CPI out of Australia came in slightly below expectation as well. Um, Later on today, you got annual budget release for the pound. You have core durable goods orders for the United States. And then you got FOMC members speaking along with Bank of Canada meeting minutes. All right. So that's what we got there on the fundamental side. Any questions or anything that you guys came across that you want to bring to the table? No. Cool beans. Benny, good morning, bro.
Ryan, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Glad to be here. How are you?
Oh yeah, man. Doing great. Doing great.
Awesome. 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 What's top of mind for you today, man? Anything?
Oh man, you covered it all, right? Tariffs continue to be the issue. I was listening to Bloomberg Europe Daybreak, like I think it was the head of strategy for like HSBC, and he just reiterated like that's the major concern. It's still the tariffs, like it's
Wild.
continues to be, that's a sledgehammer on the markets,
Hmm.
so that was it. That was the main thing I caught this morning. Just everybody is still, tariffs are the issue, especially as we approach this April deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious to see once we get there if things actually start moving, or do we still stay kind of deadlocked uh as we are right now.
Yep, yep. So that's it. That's it. That's what they're all following. That's what they're all eyeing. So, you know, I would be a fool not to do the same.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Cool deal, man. Um, Team, or even you, Benny, do you have any charts that are top of mind for you before I dive into any of any of my thoughts?
Just continue to watch watching, watching those commodities. That's I heard you talking about copper, and the reason, behind why it's making the moves that it's making, and then just the watching that S&P.
Yeah, yeah, cool deal. We'll definitely take a look at. I haven't marked up copper. We'll definitely take a look at that, and we'll take a look at the S&P. Cool beans. Jersey Cat Swiss. All right, cool. So that's what we'll track, and then we'll go from there. So dollar index still stalling, right? Stochastic in the sell zone, but we're just continuing to press sideways. Okay, that's it. That's it. Tons of uncertainty in the market, and you see over the past couple of days, that's where we've been, is uncertain. Okay, so coming out of the 80-20 zone on the daily, I'm sorry, the B boundary on the daily, um, just missed that 118 level on the 4 in this retracement phase. With us being in the sell zone on the daily, we could see a slightly push up to the upside, but looking for potentially price to continue moving, or coming back down from this level, right? We had 80-20 here on the 1, and we'll see if we get a move back down, and then we kind of stay in this range a bit here. So not a ton on the DXY, okay? But range bound right now, and we'll see what direction we get a breakout at some point there. Okay. Um, CAD Swiss. So this one is interesting to me because from a monthly perspective, we're coming off of these lows, right? Coming off these all-time lows, got a double bottom right there, right? But we've been range bound since August. All right. We've been range bound since August, just moving sideways. So what'll be the catalyst to move this CAD to the upside? We're starting to get movement up here, right? Swing low trying to form on the weekly, stochastic getting back down into that buy zone. Okay, so we got some movement to the upside happening right now, and it looks like we're trying to break this previous support level, right? That we broke through and we came back to, right? Trying to break that level now, see if we're able to close above and continue that move to the upside. We come here to the daily, right? That pushed down, took out that A of that sub fib coming off the low. Okay, so moving to the upside. Uh, yeah, so that was your capital fib there. This will be your new AB boundary right here. Okay, that's your new AB boundary on the daily time frame. So double bottom here, we're pressing to the upside, stochastic in the sell zone right now, right? So do we get a pullback and then maybe we start, or maybe we continue these ABCD waves to the upside? I'm looking at a potential another move back down. I don't know that the Canadian dollar has the strength. Um, I don't know that there's a ton of strength in the Canadian dollar just yet. We'll see what comes out of these meeting minutes this afternoon. See if there's anything insightful there. Um, but I'm looking for a move back to the downside, and then we'll see if we bounce off this level again for a potential buying opportunity. Um, but coming off the lows, okay, coming to the four, we had the 618 retracement, weren't able to break out to get to the D extension. You see them move back up. So I'm curious again, right? Just how price moves here as we come back to these 4 hour levels. This is that previous support level here, okay, that we're breaking above. Um, Stochastic on the 4 hours also in the sell zone. So keeping my eyes peeled and seeing how price moves as we trickle to the upside. Okay. Coming down to your one. There's your capital fib coming off the top, deep in the zone here. Okay. Um, so do we turn over at some point? Right? Do we turn over at some point? We're above the cloud, we're moving up, getting deeper in the zone. So do we stay inside the AB boundary? That's what I'm looking to see here. Okay. That's what I'm looking to see is if we stay inside that AB boundary. Um, if we run a sub fib off the low, there you are. Okay. Pushing into that 118 and 127 zone. Let's see on this candle. 61,512. We just missed the 382 here. Okay. We just missed the 382. So shallow retracement, pushing into the 118 and 127 zone, staying inside that AB boundary. Do we get a move back down? Ultimately coming down and giving us another low here and getting to that D extension at 60.55. Okay. So watching that, right? This was actually an 80-20. We worked that 118 level there, moved to the upside off the lows. Now do we get an 80-20 here as a deep retracement inside that AB boundary or move back down? Okay, so watching that there as it develops, it could be a short opportunity there. Again, right? We'll see what the meeting minutes have to say. Uh, we'll see what the meeting minutes have to say today. This is 60.55, Reese. 60.55. So let's watch that there, right? Do we get an 80-20 here? Do we stay inside that AB boundary, then get to the D extension? That's my thought here. And then just kind of stay in range bound for a minute as price continues to do its thing. And as the market also continues to bounce back and forth. something like that. Those are my thoughts. Joy, what are yours? What are your thoughts here?
So I'm in at 60, 50, 11. And when I looked at the charts, and this is the part, I always contemplate on, we got two plays here. And my thing was Canada stronger than Chef? But then you said the mints, they got news today. So I was actually looking for a move back down with hopes that maybe I don't have to close because maybe the CAD is stronger than the Swiss. But
I dig that. Um, I dig that. First off, kudos to you
thank you.
on this entry. It says 65. Excuse me.
65. No, I'm sorry. 611, 64. I'm sorry.
611, so 611. Somewhere in this range here.
Yeah, I had off that pullback.
Great work.
Yeah.
Great work. All right. So beautiful move to the upside there. Um, so Canadian dollar stronger than the Swissy. Um, last week they cut rates, right? Swiss National Bank. I believe that's what happened. Um, but also you do have the Canadian dollar, oil still back and forth, but I think you're getting a little boost from that side of things as well. Do we have a rate statement? Oh, they kept them. They cut rates. All right, 25 basis points. Swiss National Bank. Um, so I feel you on the Canadian dollar being stronger than the Swissy. So yes, right, movement to the upside. Um, I think. Well, what I'm looking to see is with the uncertainty and the continued back and forth with the tariffs and that implementation date coming up, right? Do we see more safe haven flight and just with that continued uncertainty? And does the Swiss get a slight boost from that? And then, and this is me just thinking about the ebbs and flows of things. Uh, do we see a stall in the progress in the talks coming out of Ukraine with Ukraine and Russia? Right. I don't think we get a full ceasefire there. But like I said, I don't think that the impact on oil bringing oil prices back down with the lifting of the Russia's sanctions. Um, I don't know that that has the impact that the market thinks, because, like I said, that oil has been in the market, right? It just hasn't been coming directly from Russia. It's been going through other countries from Russia. So um, that part I'm curious on. So that's kind of why I'm back and forth on this one, and I think we could see a little move back to the downside before continuing up. But also keeping in mind that we are at those lows. Um, no, it did not hit the 382. It was just shy, just shy. So we got an 80-20 scenario here with the sub fib. So that's my thought, though. I feel you on the Canadian dollar being stronger than the Swissy. But do we continue to get that back and forth with the uncertainty and with oil going back and forth? So we shall see. We shall see. Yeah. Any other questions or any other thoughts on the CAD Swiss? Benny, what are your thoughts here on these two, man?
I don't know, so it's a no-go for me.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
when
yeah.
when in doubt, stay out, right?
Stay out.
Because like you said, that with the uncertainty, you never know when that safe haven appeal can kick in for the Swiss franc. Even though they did cut rates, it still has the ability to strengthen, based on that, So yeah, I I follow everybody's, sentiment and opinions, but it's like, man, I can't get a read on it.
Yeah, yeah. I dig that. I dig that. Enjoy you moved your stop in the profit, so that's beautiful, right? And just continue to let it ride, right? If you get that boost, beautiful. If it comes back and takes you out, you still got some profit to take home. So that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Great
yeah,
work.
she played it beautifully.
Great work. I'm dropping seven in the chat for joy. So awesome. All right. So that's the cash Swiss. Um, Benny, I'm glad in our conversation the other day talking about this pound NZD, uh we decided to take that money off the table because we're coming back down with that inflation being lower than expected.
Yep.
Uh so this pound NZD, let's come back to the daily time frame. We're just bouncing around right now, right? Just bouncing around overall. We're slowly making our way up. But when you run into these sub fibs coming off the retest there, right? We got a 50% retracement here. I had expected a little deeper push, didn't get it, but right now price is turning over here. Okay, so when you zoom into this and take a look at this area here, right? We got our 80-20 to play out, and we'll look at this on the 4 as well. Stochastic coming out of that buy zone, right? So we're headed to that sell zone potential there. And then we had the weakness, I mean the inflation being lower than expected was causing this move to the downside here. Okay. Um, I think we get a deeper move, right? I'm still looking at this 222 as a potential area for price to stall, right? It'll be back at the cloud, giving us that retest of the cloud after that push out. Retest of, excuse me, previous resistance that we broke out of, right? Back down to that 618 retracement area. Um, and we could even move deeper, right? I ran the sub fib off the top. Again, we'll go down to the 4 hour, but we got a 618 retracement here. The matching D extension is at 21, right? Which is back into this 8-6 retracement level off the capital fib on the daily, which isn't out of line, right? As long as it stays inside that AB boundary, right? That's the thing. So I'm looking to see if we close today and then we get this type of action here in this movement continue to the downside. Movement to the downside like that. So watching that there, I ended up taking because price is bouncing around. I ended up closing my position, a decent profit on it, right? I was just saying, I'm glad I did, right? As price is coming back down to the downside, so that'll take my money off the table. We'll reassess as price gets to these lower levels. So as we come down to the 4 and look at this from this perspective, right? um Here that is that fib off the top, you see that a lot more clearly here. You got your range there at that 618 level, and now we're pressing back down to the downside. Okay. So we will watch and see what happens, right? As we approach this 222 level, we'll take a look to see where things are, and then we will go from there, right? But price coming back down to the downside right now, trying to break back below that cloud. We'll see if we get bearish confirmation on the cloud as well, signaling a continuation to the downside, at least in the short term, right? And then we'll, like I said, look for a low price and then look for some buying opportunities once we get down into these lower ranges, 618, 786, 86 levels. All right. So this pound NZD is retracing at the moment. Okay. So you come down to the one, and those fibs got taken out. These fibs also got taken out, right? And you get that when price gets range bound, you'll see the fibs in both directions get taken out. So we're running off the top. Okay. 8-6 retracement here. We hit the D extension on the move down. Right now we're looking for a reset. So once we get that reset is where we could see this pullback here that I was talking about off that higher time frame. And then we get that continuation to the downside. Okay. So off the 1 hour, right, waiting for a reset here, waiting for a swing low to form. And then we'll look for a retracement and see if we continue moving down to that 222 level. Okay. So just watching that one as it moves, but bearish action coming off that news out of the UK. Questions on the pound Swiss?
Yeah, so it was, it was a good conversation yesterday when when you made that decision. So just in a larger context, it was because of the diversity you have in your portfolio, the opportunity, at least in the short term, right, to go ahead, reduce and close that position with the profit and reallocate that profit
Yeah.
somewhere else, right? Like the SCHD you were talking about. Now could take those gains, right, and move it towards, towards another asset like that, right? Being that they realign the portfolio for SCHD, so being able to take those profits. Yes, happy birthday,
Oh, happy
Donette.
birthday,
For
Donette.
sure, yeah, I did see that on Facebook. Big happy birthday too. Big happy birthday.
Yeah.
So and indeed. So yeah, it was a great conversation, right? Because that, hey, is the pound versus the New Zealand dollar a major correction right now? Like you said, could very well look continue head to, those higher time frame targets. But hey, you assess your portfolio and it's like, man, in the short term, I got an opportunity to move this money, the gains that I've made from this, into an asset that is really has a promising upside based on what they just did with their realignment.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely a great conversation when it comes to just the reallocation as we dig into just being clearer on what that looks like. It was definitely a good one. Definitely a good one. I was able to take um it was like $7,000 in profit and reallocate that to SCHD, adding in a position of still a decent sized position, but smaller on SCHD in preparation for that to move to the upside. That's the ETF I was talking to you guys about yesterday. So 50. I love it. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Um, yeah, so definitely good to continue to implement those strategies that we're discussing when it comes to reallocation and looking at it from a larger perspective as well, and looking at how a lot of these companies think through their reallocation, um, and implementing those learnings. So I appreciate you, bro. That's awesome. That's awesome. Celebration time. I love it. I love it. Um, let's look at some of these pounds. Pound Aussie coming back down a little bit. All right. Been on a run to the upside. We got some consolidation. Now we're pressing back down. Right. Broke some key levels here on the daily. Boom. Key level that was broken. Right. Looking for a pullback and retest. Okay. Overall, that's the capital fib there. We got a 382 push. Now, as we continue to bounce back and forth, look for a pullback and continuation to the upside. Okay. We come down to the 4. Come down to the 4. That 80-20 played out beautifully and continued to run. So now we'll look at the fib coming from here. Nope. Boom. All right. And we're pulling back. So you got your consolidation happening there. So pulling back right now. We'll see how deep that pullback comes, right? You're breaking below the cloud here on the 4. You'll see if you get your bearish confirmations on that for continuation down, coming back to this 198 level, and then we'll see what happens from there. See if we get a reset and then a move back to the upside. Okay. So you come down to your 1. Nothing super clear from a fib perspective. Yeah, all choppy. So this one just sitting tight, right? We're in a retracement phase, but let's just allow this one to do its thing, right? The fib's taken out because of that consolidation. Okay. But let's just allow this retracement to do what it's going to do. Okay, there's your fib coming off the top, hit the D extension. So we'll allow that one to continue doing this thing and then also reassess that one. If we get down to, whoops, this level here. If we get down here, right, we'll reassess and see where we go from there. Okay, so not a ton on the pound Aussie, but we're in that retracement phase. Pound CAD, retracement phase, right? We broke out of this area here, similar to the pound Aussie, right? Broke through that resistance, boom. Now we're pulling back. Okay, looking for a retest of this previous zone here. Okay, looking for a retest of this previous zone. And then a continuation to the upside. You got stochastic in the buy zone right now on the daily, right? So you could get a pullback and then a continuation down, but just sitting patient, waiting for the low price here. And we come down to the 4, and that could look like that A getting taken out, right? You had an 80-20 here, shallow retracement, 118, 127 zone, boom, breakdown, right? And we're continuing to move to the downside. So again, I'm watching these lower levels here, 181, it's 181 to 182. Watching that range. So that means this fib gets taken out. We flip the fibs and we run them down. Okay. So watching that as it moves to the downside from a 4-hour perspective. You'll come down to the 1. And you're deep in the zone on the 1, but I believe that gets taken out also. Okay. So sitting tight. This one got some more defined movement, right? And that we can track the direction. Okay, so as I'm tracking that to the downside, those are ABCD waves to the downside. 618 retracement headed towards the matching D extension of the 1618 level here, right? And then we'll get pullbacks and continuations to the downside here. So again, just sitting tight on this one. I'm waiting for a low price to then potentially be able to get back long with the things going on in the UK overall. Okay. So that's the pound CAD. Any questions here?
Nope.
Cool beans. Pound dollar. Just hovering. Just hover it. Okay. Your capital fib is the one that's manually drawn in there. We got sub fibs running here. Trying to pull back, right? Trying to pull back off the highs there. We'll see what happens. But fresh AB boundary. We'll see if we get the retracement and then the continuation to the upside. The thing about it is, on this one, we got stochastic in the buy zone, right? So do we come back and retest this 128 level and then bounce higher? Okay, so watching that from that perspective, especially with the dollar being uncertain as well, we could see this not give a deep retracement as we would like if we're looking at playing the B boundary or even an 80-20 scenario. Coming down to your 4, right? You got your 80-20 there, but again, watch this previous resistance level, previous support, previous resistance, right? Watch this level 128 to see if we bounce off of this and continue moving along. Okay, if the dollar continues to weaken, we could see that type of action. Okay, so just be aware of that. And then coming down to your 1, the 80-20 is moving to the downside. Still haven't got to that 382 just yet, right? But we're on our way. But again, right, watching this lower level for bounce. Okay, so that's a quick look at the pound dollar already in motion, but looking for price to settle in and then move back to the upside. Okay, questions here?
No.
Nope.
Nope. All right, quote gains. Let's take a look at this S&P 500. Continuing to press long, right? On the move back to the upside. We talked about yesterday, right? Looking to see what happens if we get to high prices and then move lower before giving us a longer move to the upside. But watching this as it goes. Okay. We're moving to the upside. We got some consolidation happening right now, but last 2 days have been up. Got a nice little gap there out of the weekend and a push. So watching price as it continues to trek up. And then we'll see what happens as we get deeper into the zone here on the daily, right? We do have a stochastic in the sell zone. So this could be setting up for pullback and giving us our ABCD waves on the lower time frame as we make this trek to the upside. Okay, so we'll continue to watch. We'll see what the copper conversation has on the broader market. Come down to the 4, and that's where we are here on the 4, right? Pullback, continuation to the upside, and then do we see that move back down? Okay, that's stochastic coming out of that sell zone, right? So sorry about that. So we could see this retracement come sooner, and then we press to the upside. Okay. But looking at in the short term, at least, S&P 500 continuing to move to the upside, and then we'll look at higher prices for a move back down, setting us up for that long-term bullish run. What's the number, Benny? 6,500, 6,800? Something like that?
Yep. I think the daily day extension is like 6,600, but one of the firms that it was a while ago, one of the major firms were calling 6,500 this year. Called the correction and then said thought it eventually rallied to 6,500. So
Yeah. So that's what we're looking at, good people. So in that preparation, right? Here's that fib. Boom. Is that right? That's not right. AB boundary. That was off the weekly, is what that that manual fib that I had. There's that fib that I was looking for, right? This AB boundary here, right? Do we get that deeper retracement? This is what I'm looking for, bro. I love to see price come back to that 618 level. And then that larger extension at 68.
Okay. So a move lower first and then the rally.
That's what I would like. We'll see if it happens, depending on,
Yeah,
where the market goes and
it
what
could.
happens with all the stuff.
It could. Nobody knows. Everybody's wondering if we found a low, but we could have, one more push down.
Yeah, but you're trying to put in this low right here on the weekly, right? So you got a 50% retracement already, starting to make that move with the stochastic in the buy zone on the weekly time frame. On the daily, though, you're in that sell zone. So it's a mismatch there. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But on the move to the upside, overall is what we're looking for. Okay. So that's that fib there. So looking at that continuing long. Okay. Where we are right now on the 4 again, right? Retracement and then move to the upside potentially. We'll watch and see how the market moves today. Do we come back and retest that cloud after that nice strong break there? Pull back and then a continuation. As we get down to the 1 here, right? Just shy of that 118 level for that 80-20. So again, right? Do we get a retracement today and then that move to the upside, right? Or do we turn and just push and then give a retracement? So just continue to watch and monitor this one. I did take a small position, as we talked about the other day, bro, on this. And even if it pulls back, and then I go on a drawdown a little bit, I'm okay with that. I'll just continue to add if we do get this one more leg to the downside. I'll look to add to that. But just some other thoughts on that. Questions on the S&P 500?
Nope.
Cool beans. Copper. Running. Haven't marked this up in a while, so let's do some cleanup here. Look at that. Taking off. Taking off. Breaking a monthly resistance level. Man, oh man. Oof. That's wild. Look at it. When was that, Joy?
Benny was on. I'm like, Benny, look at copper. Benny, look at copper. I ain't have my readers on. And I looked, it was an oil. It wasn't copper. It was an oil chart. And Benny was like, no, let's go look at it.
Hey, it was telling you something. It was telling you something. Look at it. Boom. It's going. It's going. Um, you just knew you were supposed to be on the copper chart. That's what it was. You knew where you were supposed to be. Um, but look at that. Look at that. Moving along here. So let's put in these support and resistance levels. All right, here we go. So on our daily, we got support here. Support here. Okay, so we zoom out. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. And let's run our fib off the low here. So that got taken out. So we'll come here. Also got taken out. The reason I'm staying on the bottom, right, and running the fib to the upside because we took out this A here. So it wouldn't be a point to run the fib to the downside, right? We're moving long, and that's our bias is long here. So our bias is to the upside. We'll run our fib in that direction. So we got a 50% retracement D extension achieved. So look for a swing high and a pullback. Right. So that's on the daily there. All right. That run up got us to the D extension. So let's come down to the 4. Boom. Look at that. 80-20. Shallow retracement 118, 127 zone, stochastic in the sell zone. Stochastic in the sell zone on the daily also. So let's set us up for a pullback here. All right. Implementation of those tariffs, right? Do we see this? And a pullback down into the sweet spot. 80-20 there on the 4. Right? Low price to then get back long. 80-20 on copper. Okay. Down to the 1. Run these fibs off the low here. Probably have to go higher. Yeah. $80-20 on the 1 hour as well. All right. So we got a short opportunity here on copper. Right. See if we get a low price to then be able to get back long. That's copper. Questions? No?
No.
Cool beans. That's where we at, good people. Not a ton happening in the market. Just continue to watch and observe. Some things moving, but not a ton. Not a ton, right? Got a lot of gridlock happening because of the uncertainty. Okay. Questions about anything that we covered this morning before we wrap it up? No.
No, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Benny, final thoughts, bro?
No, man. Like you said, just continue to be patient and pick those spots, man. Pick those spots. We're about to move into April. We'll see what's going on with this tariff situation. Like I said, just be patient. You got to make your money on the back half of the year. It's better than losing money and then chasing it for the second half of the year. So just continue to be patient, man. That's the biggest lesson I've learned over the years.
This is facts, bro. This is facts. All right, good people. Benny said it. Patience pays. So you guys have a phenomenal day, Miss Donette. You have a phenomenal birthday. Enjoy your day. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. We'll talk to you then. Peace.
Thank you. You too.
Welcome.